Enforcement Board meeting to order. Everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If you're testifying, please be sworn in.
Ma'am, are you going to testify today? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Last month's minutes.
To make a motion, we approve the minutes from last month.
Seconded.
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Staff, we have any revisions to the agenda?
I do. I would like to pull case, I'm sorry, bear with me here.
Could you, when you do this, give a name? I can pick out the names a lot quicker than the
Or
numbers.
the letter next to it. The letter next to it. Yeah.
Okay.
That's usually what he does.
Number 5A, N as in November, Matthew S. Carter.
Okay.
Citation has been paid, the property is in compliance, case is closed.
Item E, William T. Collins is being pulled from the agenda. The fine was paid Friday, code compliance was issued, and he's applying for a permit from the building department, so I'd like to continue to work with him. Item G, Ulta Salon Cosmetics and Fragrances, citation's been paid. Item H, Dodgertown, citation's been paid. Item I, Dodgertown Spring Training, citation has been paid. And the postponement on Tanchel, Sherry, you'll handle that, or I address it now?
The last case to be heard, item R, Melvin and Ruth Tanchel. They had requested a continuance for 30 days, and that was approved by the chair, so that'll be heard at the next hearing.
I have a question on that. How many delays or postponements are they allowed? Is there a limit?
There's really no limit, just like in any court kind of case. If you have to request a continuance, it usually is granted depending on the circumstances. In this instance, this is their first request for a continuance, so it would be granted.
No, I understand that, and I'm in favor of it, but I wouldn't want to see anything dragged out 3-4 times. So that's just my position.
Is that it? I'll move we adopt the agenda as revised.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Brings us to case 18-CE-8867.
Cases before the board today, 18CE8867. The violator, Phileas Jean Louise, was cited for a non-operable Kia stored on the property. A citation was issued 9/18/2018 with service of the citation provided by certified return receipt. The violation has been corrected as of 9/26/2018. The civil penalty has not been paid. Enforcement cost of $64.33 are requested by the city, requesting a board order today for the initial penalty and the cost of enforcement.
All right.
I'll put those words in the form of a motion.
Let's hear it.
Seconded.
You're not going to get that. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. 18-CE-8936. Boy, there's tough names today. Patel.
Mr. Patel. The case is before the board today, 18CE8936. The violator, Mr. Patel, was cited for a non-operable vehicle parked at 2706 Atlantic Boulevard. Citation was issued 9/18/2018 with service of the citation provided by property posting and certified return receipt. The violation has not been corrected. The citation has been paid. Enforcement costs of $39.12 are requested by the city. Find that the board finds the violation continues to exist and issue a board order to correct the violations or assess daily continuing penalties for the days the property remains in violation beginning 11/19/2018.
Okay, to clarify, usually the penalty begins when they should have come into compliance.
Excuse me, could you repeat that?
The continuing penalty should begin on the date that they should have come into compliance in the first place. So you give them, let's say, an additional 30 days to come into compliance, but if they don't, the continuing penalties go back to whatever date
Right.
that previous date was.
Okay. So then what would the status on this?
What would be the status on this?
Yeah,
He paid the penalty. The problem is there's several junk cars, and he removed one and two remain. Mr. Patel actually lives in New York. This is a rental property, so maybe give him instead 2 weeks to comply, or the fine go back to the original compliance date. So he has time to get a board order, since I'm sure he was noticed for the hearing today.
so then your recommendation is that we give him an extra 2 weeks to comply at this time?
2 weeks from today, yes, sir.
I would make that in the form of a motion that 2 weeks from today, we extend this before he should comply. Am I saying that correctly, Madam Attorney?
Well,
Not really.
let me try and start this out and see what you think. That the board finds that the violation has not been corrected, that he be given until
December 1st.
December 1st, oh, that's a Saturday, December 3rd to come into compliance. That if he fails to come into compliance by December 3rd, a continuing penalty of $50 per day for each day the violation exists, starting from the date that he should have come into compliance as of September 25th, and code enforcement costs.
And I will put those words in the form of a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion.
Thank you.
Case 18-CE-8938, E&G Investment Properties.
E&G Investment Properties, this is a triple repeat, or a three repeat, I guess. They're up to $150 in civil penalties. They are in compliance, they have received notification, and they have not paid the citation. I'm sorry, they have not paid the civil penalty. They are in compliance. I'm asking for a board order for the $150 civil penalty to be paid upon receipt of the board order.
What would the enforcement penalty be?
There's none on this. It's just overgrowth. It's nothing that takes really any amount of investigative skills.
Okay,
They cleaned it up.
they removed everything else?
They did, and they've maintained it since then. So I don't know if they've three times the charm or not, but they have done better this time than they ever have in the past. Same owners.
Well, here's a question. I mean, 3 times, there's no penalties? I mean,
Of course there is, $150.
150?
okay.
For me, no. I mean, again, this is just something where I just drive by and look. It's not.
Okay,
I don't
all right,
look
so
at it as
I
any
got you.
investigative time to speak of.
Okay. So it's a $50 fine, basically 3 times 3.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion that there was a violation that's now in compliance, and the board issue an order for payment of the $150 civil penalty.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
18-CE-8682, Pablo and Petra Gutierrez.
Pablo and Petro Gutierrez and Beatriz Guzman Martinez were cited for failure to obtain an after-the-fact code compliance certification for the brick paver driveway installed at 34 Pathfinder Drive. A citation was issued October 2nd, 2018, with service of the citation provided by property posting. The violation has not been corrected, and the citation has just been paid now right before hearing. We are not asking for enforcement costs. The mobile home is in the city trailer park, so they're the tenants. So when they apply for a code compliance, the airport has to sign off. The airport would not sign off on the code compliance. They did not recognize the person who was applying for the code compliance as being a tenant. So the property had changed hands and no one notified the airport that they were new tenants, that they needed a new lease. So once that was all straightened out with the airport, they went and they got it, then they were given time to come into compliance and they did not. So we have met now in the clerk's office and I think we're all on the same page that they need to verify with the airport who's there, who's the tenant, who can legally apply for a code compliance, and the airport will sign off. So with that understanding today, they paid the $50 penalty and we're asking for 30 days to give them time to go back through the system and get everything straightened out.
So really, it was, they weren't able to comply because they didn't have their lease paperwork in order? Or?
They were originally
Or the airport
notified in
didn't?
July
Oh,
of what they needed to do.
okay.
And then the airport notified me who should be there, and that person, as well as the tenant that had come forward, they were all noticed, and then they just, someone dialogued on their behalf and then quit communicating, and it's just problematic.
So, my understanding is you're asking for a 30-day delay.
I'm asking for a 30-day board order to correct.
Okay, board order. I'll put that in the form of a motion.
And after 30 days, we'll start continuing penalties?
Say that again.
After 30 days, the continuing penalties will start?
And then continuing penalties to be in effect.
Correct.
From the
Shouldn't
date
they-
they should have come in. Sherry, what's your?
That they find that they're not, that they are in violation, et
Yeah.
cetera, et
Yes, we
cetera,
should.
so we could have the order.
So they actually, it was July when they were noticed, so do we back it up to July?
No, because once we were noticed of who should be there, we included who should be there along with who we knew to be there, and everyone got a warning citation and said, come forward and make it right. They did not, so a citation was issued.
What date?
10-2.
10/2. So
They paid the penalty, though,
They just paid the penalty today prior to the
but
hearing.
they're not in compliance
No, they are not.
Because they
until that gets signed off.
just found out what they needed to do. Although they didn't try too
Problem
hard.
because there's a language barrier, and then someone will call in and speak on their behalf, and you tell that person, and then you hope they go back and they tell them, and they're like, yeah, okay, I'll tell them this is what they need to do, and then that person quits dialoguing with me and quits taking my calls if I reach out to them. So when they got the notice of hearing, they came today, asked what they needed to do. We went over it. We were all on the same page. They paid the citation to show good faith, and so I said I'd ask for the 30 to,
Okay.
once again, complete the process.
Or fine will start from 10/2, is that correct?
No, that was the date of
The date of, the date they
notification.
originally should have corrected the violation was 10/10.
10/10, okay. Go ahead.
I don't think anybody seconded that yet.
Well, I think we probably need to restate it.
I think we're waiting for a concise paragraph that we can put in form of a motion.
You and me, Kirk.
Well,
I'll do it, but you need to rescind your motion then.
I rescind my motion, thank you.
Okay. I'll make a motion then that there is a violation and the violation continues and that the board, that the civil penalty has been paid, the board issue an order to come into compliance within 30 days. If they're not in compliance by that time, continuing penalties will commence beginning on October 10th.
And I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. 18-CE-8964, Kappa's Holding, Inc.
Kappas Holding, Inc., Cunningham's Pool and Darts. James Kappas was cited for a false alarm at 736 21st Street. A citation was issued 9/25/2018 with service provided by certified return receipt. The violation has been corrected. The civil penalty has not been paid. The city's asking for a board order today for the initial penalty.
To clarify, with false alarms, it's not that the violation is corrected, it's that it's an uncorrectable violation.
It's an uncorrectable violation. Now, last month, they were also cited, am I correct?
Correct.
Cunningham's. So this makes the second?
Actually, I noticed earlier this week, if you drive by Cunningham's, there's a for lease sign. The building is defunct.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that the board issue an order to pay the $50 civil penalty.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right, 18-CE-9030, Vero Prime.
Vero Prime, Michael McPhee was cited for a false alarm at 1103 21st Street. A citation was issued 10/10 with service of the citation provided by certified return receipt. As the fourth false alarm, the business is required to complete an alarm user awareness class, and to date, this has not been done. And the citation has not been paid. Asking for a board order to complete the alarm user class and pay the initial penalty or continuing daily penalties for every day the violation continues after 11/19.
Very well said, and I put that in the form of a motion.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
18-CE-9035, Vero Prime.
Vero Prime, Michael McPhee was cited for a false alarm at 901 21st Street. Citation was issued 10/11 with service provided by certified return receipt. The citation has not been paid, requesting a board order to pay the initial penalty.
I'll make a motion that the board issue an order to pay the $50 civil penalty.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Should it be buy two, get one free? Well, there's a third one now.
This is the next.
Oh, wow.
That was a very rare joke on your part.
The unfortunate thing with false alarms is there's a stacked penalty. But in order for the penalty to go to the next level, you have to pay the citation, which deemed admitted guilt, or you have to come before the board and find that you committed the violation. So when you have back-to-back-to-back in a short time frame and you don't pay, you can't get past the 50 until it's scheduled to come before you. So he
Okay.
got a deal
So
at
you already got a
$50.
discount. You got a three for
He earned a discount.
Mashed potatoes on the side.
Okay, so
Ms. Anderson, when do the fines start going up? You're going to read the third one in a row for the same Vero Prime.
Right, because this is the first time he's been scheduled for a hearing based on when the citation is issued and when it's scheduled to be heard. So if he is found guilty on the prior two, his next one will go to the $100.
Okay.
But he has to pay these three first.
No.
At this point, he will have
now
been found in
we've found-
violation.
yeah.
And to clarify, the first violation occurred on October 10th, the second violation occurred on October 11th, and the fourth violation, or the third violation, occurred on October 14th. So, like she said, when it's back to back to back, it's hard to,
Right.
but now the penalty will go up to the next level and so forth.
And sadly, Vero Prime has not ever reached out to communicate to me.
next time, I'm sure.
Optimism.
Okay, for case 18-CE-9050, I'll make a motion that the board issue an order to pay the $50 civil penalty.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
18-CE-9042, Julie M.
Damiani.
Damiani, thank you.
Julie Damiani was cited for a false alarm at 1016 26th Street. Citation was issued 1012. Citation service was provided by property posting after certified return receipt was unclaimed. The citation has not been paid. Asking for a board order today to pay the initial penalty.
I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. 18-CE-9067, Patio Restaurant.
Patio Restaurant of Vero Beach Incorporated, William J. Brown was cited for a false alarm at 1103 21st Street. The citation was issued with service provided by property posting after certified return receipt was unclaimed. The citation has not been paid, requesting a board order to pay the penalty.
See, this is a repeat because they got a $100 penalty.
Hallelujah.
I will put that in the form of a motion.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Because Mr. Brown came forward and paid his prior to a hearing. He got a notice and he paid the citation. He did the right thing.
And he got penalized.
And he got penalized.
We didn't make the rules. 18-CE-8789, U.S. Bank Trust Caliber Home Loans.
This property came before the Code Enforcement Board in September and was given an order to correct the violation, or that the city would move in, abate the violation, and file a special assessment lien. The bank, as the owner of the property, has done nothing, so the city abated the property. The case is before the board today to find that the violation was cured by the city on October 8th, 2008, and stopped the continuing daily penalties as of October 7th.
Why would we stop the...
It's in compliance now. The
It's
city
in
fixed it.
compliance? Okay. I just know this was the one, I believe, that came up in front of the board last month or month before
September.
last. Yeah, September.
So, my understanding, you are asking for a total of $2,050 in penalties?
I'm asking for the fine to stop, and those are the penalties that will be assessed, correct?
Okay.
In addition, because we abated it, the cost of abatement will be the lien.
And that's something that would go before the city council.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for that.
The property had been also issued an unsafe structure prior, and since the case was heard in September, communication was made again with the building department, and the house is in even worse shape now.
Has the bank ever responded? Isn't the bank the owner again?
The bank has certificate of title. The bank questioned what was going on. We dialogued with them. We reached out to them. We gave them time. They never did anything and quit dialoguing back.
Okay. I would make a motion, but I'm not sure how to word this, so I'm gonna...
Just find the property in compliance as of October 7th.
I put that in the form of a motion. There's just so much going on with this property.
So you'll find that it was in compliance as of October 7th, that the continuing penalties will stop at that point, and that the total amount due is the $2,000 plus.
Well, to pay the amount due. Just
Pay the amount due.
Yeah, I don't like to show in case there was a mathematical error.
Okay, pay the amount
Pay the
due.
amount due.
Pay the amount due. Thank you, ma'am. That is my motion.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. 17-CE-7964, Ronald H. Rennick and Patricia King.
This property was found in compliance on August the 1st. This property was given until, from the time of their hearing until May 10th to bring it into compliance. They however, didn't again until August the 1st. That gave them a total of 83 days at $50 per day and an accrued civil penalty of $4,150 approximately. I'm asking that the board find that they are in compliance as of August 1 and that the amount owed is due.
Is this the one where the guy couldn't find somebody to do the work?
He's sitting right there. He's
Oh, there you are. Okay, yes, I remember.
He needs to be sworn in.
right. If you could, Sherry, can you swear him in?
Will you state your name, sir, please?
Ronald H. Rennick.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the original problem was we had a hurricane, wiped out our dock, and thinking that the governor's emergency order covered us in going ahead and repairing it, we did. And then the inspector came and said we had to stop and had to get a permit and redo it. So we did. We got it torn down a new dock that we had just repaired, and it was in good condition at that time, but it wasn't done in compliance with the city codes. So we were given till May 9th to obtain a permit, not to get the work done. It was to May 9th to obtain a permit according to your order I don't see the date when you ordered it, but here's the thing. It says we were given it would be appropriate to allow 3 months, May 9, 2018, to obtain a permit. And that was dated, it says 22nd of February. You issued that. So we complied in a prompt and orderly manner. We signed a contract with a dock builder, Riverside Docks, in March, and the engineering was completed in April, and the builder, he got his permit in June and completed the dock in August because of scheduling and all the large amount of building that's been going on. We couldn't just get it done just like that, but we got it done in a prompt and efficient manner, and cost over $50,000 to redo what we had repaired before. So I would ask that you abate that $50 a day penalty, because that is just adding more cost to effort to comply.
Were you in contact with the code enforcement officer during that?
No, we were working to comply with the code. We weren't.
But you didn't give him a call and let him know that you had complied?
No.
That might have cleared a lot of stuff up right before it could happen.
Well, we did it, and I thought you were watching, so I didn't know I had to call you back.
Do you have a copy of your permit with you?
Yes.
Okay.
And what was the exact date of completion?
Well, the date of get the permit was June, and the completion was August. But your order said we had to have be appropriate to allow 3 months, May 9, 2018, to obtain a permit. We didn't say we had to have it finished by then.
Correct.
And we had the permit shortly after that. It was in the works. The engineering firm, Schulte, Biddle, and Stoddard, had been in contact with the city departments and we went back and forth a few times, and that takes time each time they want something revised. And so that was completed April 23rd.
You received the permit on April 23rd?
No, that's when the plans were approved.
The engineering,
That's when the plans were approved for Schulte, Biddle, and Stoddard. And we signed the contract. Then we'd already signed the contract before that with Riverside Docks, and then they got that done. And then this is the notice of commencement, which is June 20th. And it was finished by early August.
What was the date of your permit?
Of issuance and finalization.
The date of the permit was June 20th.
Then what is the May 10th date that's in the...
That was his compliance date.
May 9th.
It took a
compliance meaning to have a permit?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. And you didn't get one until June 20th?
Yes. It took a little time with busy contractors and everything to get it through the system. But we were working on it all that time. It wasn't like we were ignoring it.
Tom, do you have any questions for Mr. Rennick?
No, I just remind the board that this started back in October of 2017. I'm not entirely sure, Mr. Rennick could probably tell you why it had to be torn down. You can get after the fact permitting if it was done in accordance with code. If it wasn't, then I can understand why you'd have to have it.
Well, it was repaired from hurricane damage. Most people weren't damaged by the hurricane last year, but on the water with the big 6-foot waves, we were. I stayed in our apartment, which is right there at the building, and I watched it even before the storm got here. The big waves just raised it up and tore it apart.
No,
and also toward Quail Valley and some of the others down, all their lumber got piled on top of us, right in that area, on top of our docks and our lawn.
Did you try to get an after-the-fact permit instead of removing it?
No, you told me I had to tear it down and rebuild it.
No, I specifically said, and I recall the board saying that it could be an after-the-fact permit may be able to be obtained if it were built in accordance with code. None of us knew whether or not it was. The only way to know was to go through the permitting process.
And the order only says that he was required to get a permit. It didn't say it needed to be a new building permit or an after-the-fact permit. What this board can decide is that staff believe that he came into compliance on August 1st. We have evidence in the record saying that the permit was issued on June 20th. So his period of noncompliance would actually be from May 10th through June 20th.
What do we have? It says June 20th.
Well, June 19th.
Again, what do we have that says June 19th?
Yeah, Mr. Rennick said he had a copy of his permit, that if he could enter that in, or pass it around.
There's June 20th, it's right there.
So we're looking at $1,450.
But the board entirely ignored the executive order of the governor, which applied to people who had hurricane damage. Now, probably most of you didn't have any damage, and so you didn't really think of it as being a hurricane. But it was for us, and we felt we were operating under protection of that order to repair. It said so right in the order.
Wouldn't you want to have it built to code?
Well, I liked it better than the one we have now.
I believe the argument
But
was made to the
it's okay.
planning
We did
director
it.
and the board.
We have two people speaking. I can't hear her. Can you, Ms. Sanderson, can you speak again?
She was reiterating that we've already pretty much had this discussion about the legitimacy or not of doing it. And it was decided by Indian River County and our building official, and his interpretation of what the state
I remember that.
release was, that it wasn't covered.
Right. I remember that very well.
We could have taken it to court for $50,000. We could have taken it to court. We didn't. We complied.
You probably still could if you chose to, but that's neither here nor there.
Doesn't seem fair to go ahead and charge us another $1,000 or whatever for.
Still need to check to see if you need a permit or not. It's not just, hey, let's go build a whole brand new building at my third story got ripped off because of the hurricane. Am I going to go out and do a building and put a whole new third story on?
Well, the dock was still there.
So the dock would fall in line with that too.
But the dock pilings were still there, and many of the main beams that we repaired and made it better than it was before, but it wasn't suitable to the.
And I think that's.
You don't know if you made it better than it was before because the codes have changed.
And that's, as Shakespeare said, and therein lies the rub.
Do we have a copy of the permit?
Yes, I just.
Mr. Rennick does. I handed it back.
Oh, you handed it back? Here it is.
I'll need to keep a copy of that for the record if
Can
you're
we hold on to
submitting
that?
it. Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Rennick, between May 10th and when you got the permit on June 20th, was there any communication between yourself and planning saying, hey, we're trying to get this done?
No, I had hired a builder, paid him many thousands of dollars to get going on it. He hired the engineers. The engineers were communicating with.
Was there some agreement in your contract that said he would permit the project?
Yes.
And what date did you contract with him?
In March 26.
Do you have a copy of that contract that says he is responsible?
Do you have a copy of your permit for your boat dock?
Well, that's it.
This is your payment fee history. You applied for your permit on the 20th of June.
Should be on 8/1, I think. That's your permit.
Was it notice of commencement?
No, your permit.
I don't know if I have that.
So you applied for your permit on the 20th of June, but you may not have received your permit on the 20th of June.
I don't know. Again, the builder was handling it. I don't know.
We would need a copy of your permit to see when you actually received a permit.
Okay.
I would think.
Here it says on the contract with Riverside Docks, it says.
That's really not what you need.
Permits, plans, engineering, and all associated costs supplied or obtained by Riverside Docks will be paid by the customer as an extra cost. But they did it.
It didn't say they would apply for it, though, in that statement, did it?
Well, it's obvious that they did.
Planned by engineer.
They made application on the 20th, but they didn't have a permit on the 20th, unless you have a copy of your building permit for your dock.
I thought that was it. I didn't realize that was. I thought where you pay for the permit, I thought that was your permit.
No, that doesn't mean you get a permit for it. I gotta turn in permit. I apply for a permit, and it may take 6 weeks to get a permit.
Okay, well, I didn't know that.
You paid $200 for your permit fee and $100 for plan review from the fire department. You made an application on that day.
Okay. Well, that, again, it shows that we're acting in good faith to get the job done the way you wanted it.
However,
It's the way the building official wanted it, because you got caught doing it without a
If
permit.
it takes that long to get it through, it would practically be impossible to get it done by May 20th or May, whatever the deadline was.
I have a screenshot of the building department that shows that the pilings were in progress and approved on 8/1. The final approval was on 8/10. Does that come into any bearing with what you're asking, Mr.
The
Bryant?
18?
8/10 was the final approval of the permit.
That's when the dock was built. That's when we paid the final payment.
What you got?
I don't know, I'd like to argue that we do get rid of the penalties, only because, he's punished enough. He had to rebuild the whole thing. I mean, whether he had to or not, that's his problem, but
That was his
he
choice,
did end up rebuilding the whole thing,
No,
so.
I agree. If he had a contract in March, I tend to think that it was kind of,
It was a work in progress. It took longer than maybe it should have, or maybe it could have been done faster, but still.
Well, I think
at
he
least it's
has
done.
shown that he requested the permit, applied for a permit in May, correct?
right.
So
And June.
I'm willing to go to that date, as opposed to all the way back, but
But how does that affect the amount of money then?
I don't know.
Well, it would be May 10th rather
make a
than
motion?
all the way back into February, am I correct?
I was gonna go for it.
It's the only way to
He
find out.
applied on June 20th.
Well, let me just say,
I agree with you.
by my calculations, from May 10th to June, let's say 20 days at $50, is that $1,000?
No,
How much is that?
it wasn't May, actually. He was to be in compliance by May 10th, but it was June. Is that, you said that you applied? June 22nd?
Well, I'm saying
Yes,
from
that's
May
when-
10th to the
right, that's when we
22nd.
applied, yes.
That leeway, that term in there is where I would consider a penalty at this point, which is far less than the
Correct, I
the
agree.
4,000.
I agree with you.
Okay, I'm talking from May 10th to June
22nd, or
22nd or thereabouts, and I had just put 20 days, which is $1,000, so add another $100, and you're at $1,100. That's the way I see it, unless my math is wrong.
Let me
In
just state
that interim period.
May I
That's
just
a
state
compromise.
that during this entire period, we are allowed to rent 9 spaces there, 9 dock spaces, and during this entire time, we weren't collecting rent. So it's in our interest to do it as quickly as we could.
I tend to believe that the delay was not Mr. Rennick's fault. Once he had a contract with someone to do the repairs,
It cost
that
us
he was kind of
$2,700 a month to
at the mercy of
and lost
the
rent, and we
market
lost
at
our
that point in
customers.
time.
Now that we have a dock that's good and is rentable, we only have 2 customers. It takes time to get them back, so we're continuing to lose every month.
Anyone want to make a motion?
I would like to hear from other board members, their feeling on this matter, since I put my feelings out.
I'd like to make a motion for 17 CE 7964 that the property is now in compliance, that you pay the civil penalty of $50, and that we forgive, or, well, we don't charge anything else for the,
You already paid the $50.
did he already pay it?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. That it's in compliance and no other fees be paid or be required to be collected for this. That's my motion. Right.
I'll second that.
But you killed Mrs. Cello's motion?
We didn't have any other motion.
Sorry, I'm having difficulty hearing you.
Oh,
He's basically saying that that we waive the penalty since he paid the civil penalty.
he's been through enough, is my,
I agree that the man has suffered enough.
yeah. I mean,
That would-
some of it's his doing, but I think it's still, to even charging $1,100 is kind of silly at this point from all the other monies he's paid, so.
I agree with Frank.
That's my opinion.
Jerry, you want to call the roll on this one, please?
may I make a statement before we do that? I think we need to remember, I'm sorry.
What is Frank, you saying it should be $1,100?
I'm saying it should be from May 10th to June 22nd, which comes to $1,100, not $50. That's all. That's my position.
Mr. Rennick, what would you feel is fair?
Exactly.
Do we have that, is that data compliance
I think
proven?
think we've taken care of it in as prompt manner as we could, and it's done in the way that you wanted it done. We tore down our repaired dock and built a brand new one.
Who determined that the substrate was not adequate?
The building inspector, were you the building inspector that came out? No. The building inspector came and stopped to work on it and said, you have to do this, and so we did it.
If you recall, he was cited for the
building
construction.
inspector came out, looked at it, and said, you need to hire an engineer to redraw some plans here for your dock.
Right,
because-
But more than that,
I think he said you
Wait a minute, I want to, there's two people talking, I can't hear.
Let's hear from Tom, please.
he also said
But
that
had
there-
the storm not occurred, was he out of compliance?
No. No, he came out of compliance when he did the construction without a permit. The other problem was, as you might recall, was Ken Johnson from the building department, was that there were unlicensed contractors as well. It wasn't a company, as you might recall back then.
It was an insurance issue, wasn't it?
It was not an insurance
No.
issue.
We didn't have any insurance on it. They don't.
Yeah, docks are.
Why wasn't that part of the citation, unlicensed contract?
That's already been resolved with the building department,
Well-
with you guys in the building department.
Okay, I
What
understand.
lingered was the permitting. And again, had I heard from either the person rebuilding the dock or Mr. Rennick himself during that 6-week period between when he was supposed to have had it complied or permitted and when it actually got permitted, we may not be here today. It clearly denotes on everything that we send out to notify a code officer of different things along the, you know what it says, during the procedure. None of those things were done. I understand the reluctance to bring Mr. Rennick and to cost him more money, but at the same token, we have a job to do. And that job is to go out and find those people.
Well, you've done it. You've got a new dock built in this spot where we had a repaired dock.
Yeah, but the point,
Do we
Mr.
get
Rennick,
to
is
use
that this
it?
board
Do we
gave
get
you
to use
until
your
May
dock?
10th
Can we use it?
It's available if you want to rent a space. You can rent it if you want to.
We didn't get it.
Well, I didn't want it, but I have
All right,
it.
let's not
I paid for it.
evolve into.
Yeah. Well, and to clarify, if you do waive the penalties, we would need to have added to the order costs, because we have recorded the original order in the public record or the official records for Indian River County. So those would be additional costs for him.
Okay, I withdraw my motion.
And I would like to submit a motion, which I believe is a good compromise. And I would like to motion that there be a penalty of $1,100, which represents from May.
You can't just set a random, or you have to base it on something.
Yeah.
You need to find out what the costs are, add that, and then
Well, it's
set a time
$50 a
frame and
day.
let Sherry do the math.
It's $50 a day,
Plus costs.
plus costs.
On the time frame.
I have it from May 10th to June 22nd.
Well, at $50 a day, Frank, that's somewhere in the area of $2,150, not
Okay,
$1,100.
I'm sorry. No.
That,
Well,
exactly,
yeah, but
that's
he's
what I
changing the
just...
date of compliance,
That's,
I'm taking the compliance date.
Right.
which we don't have proven yet, do we?
No.
No, but
Let's prove that date's
In a-
So
in
you're
a-
basically picking a date out of the blue.
Well, no, May 10th is proven. What's not proven is June 22nd.
Right, that's what he
I
said.
meant. Yeah, the date of compliance.
Sorry. So, I mean, the only thing it could be is worse. It's not going to get better by knowing that date.
Right.
Correct.
So
I've
Yeah, but
heard.
you can't pick,
so
you can't
whatever-
randomly pick a date of compliance.
What, the date, June
the date he gave
22nd,
us.
what does that represent?
that's when he
represents the date
applied.
That's the date they applied for the
That
permit.
Mr. Rennick said he applied.
Well, that's a
for the
date.
loan.
Okay, that shows faith at that moment. So from May 10th.
That's not what the board already requested.
Well, then we have to do research from the building department to find out when a permit was issued.
And it very well may be a lot worse for this gentleman.
Well,
It will be worse.
well, it was worse than my motion.
But
You're going to find it for not making a phone call.
I initiated you made the order in February. I initiated action in March, signed a contract with the builder as soon as the engineering was done in April, and we applied for permit in June, I guess it was. To my knowledge, I thought it was done immediately, and I thought we were all set on this. I didn't realize we had to make a phone call and say we did, because you have the public records at your disposal. I thought you were following it and would
Well, it's
know.
kind of a big supposition on your part to think your contractor would immediately pull a permit.
Well, but you work with the building department and
Like I said, you assumed the contractor ran out and got a permit right away, which obviously didn't.
After you had already been cited for another builder who didn't pull a permit.
Well, that was the maintenance people that helped me rebuild it after the hurricane. They were maintenance people, they weren't contractors.
And as Tom pointed out, all correspondence says, please dialogue with your code officer. Due to our caseload, we can't monitor everything. We do follow-up as best we can.
Well, here we've just wasted the time of a dozen people for 15 or 20 minutes.
They issue you
when one person for 5 minutes could have resolved it. You knew what needed to be done. I didn't know. You knew that these things have consequences. I didn't.
I know, your code
hadn't been issued yet.
The contractor knew.
I still don't think we should, is anybody going to second the motion on the floor?
No, there has
That's
not
the
been a
motion
second.
now.
Okay, no seconds.
So the motion dies for lack of second.
Is there any provision to bring the person that he contracted with who was supposed to pull the permit? Is there a provision where we can delay this and bring this builder in here and find out what happened?
We can continue the matter to the next meeting.
Is that really necessary?
Well, the issue that, as I see
You
it,
have the
isn't...
contract, right? You have a copy of the contract with
Yes,
you? Maybe that would clear it up if we read the
Well, it
contract.
doesn't really answer the question, though, because as I recall, the board gave him until May 10th, the first time he was here. We said,
Correct.
get the permit by May 10th, everything is cool. It's only $50.
Generous.
It was very generous.
Very generous.
So nothing was done until June, but this gentleman, Mr. Rennick, is telling us that he assumed when he signed the contract that the builder would pull it.
And he signed the contract in March.
Exactly. You know.
When was the work commenced?
Not until,
Not until
I would assume after the permit was
June, I
issued.
There you go.
you can't work until you have a permit.
Exactly.
Again, the June 22nd date was provided by Mr. Rennick
Right.
as a good faith estimate to when he believes the permit was issued. I'm willing to accept that. The only thing that can happen from finding out the additional information is additional fines.
So we are going to go back to May 10th, from May 10th till June 22nd, is that correct?
That's what I would propose, yes. And that is
Okay,
what
and
Mr. Pizzacello-
the estimate is $21.50.
Well, the amount due is the way we should calculate it. So
Right.
he may plus or minus $50. It depends on how they count the days.
Okay.
Let's look at the contract.
And the recording cost.
I think it shows good faith that he fairly promptly, after we told him, got a contract to get everything fixed.
Contract was signed on March 26th.
Do we know which meeting was he here early March? The March meeting.
I'd also like to point
again-
out that Mr. Rennick's business and himself are well-regarded and respected in the community, and he's not just some drive-in kind of situation here, and I think that we should try to give him the benefit of the doubt. There's a lot of doubt here, but obviously he's gone through all the hoops as he sees it that he could. So I'd like to recommend that we make the amount $500. That's my number.
You say the contract was signed on May 26th?
March 26th.
March 26th.
So the contract was signed on March 26th, and the permits went into motion on June 22nd. And that,
He applied for a permit on June 22nd.
correct?
He would actually have applied for it, I would assume, on June 20th when he made the payment.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're
The
back to...
contractor wouldn't need the permit until they're ready to build, right? They're ready to do the work. So they might have delayed it until their schedule is free.
They might have.
When a permit's ready to be issued, there's a date on it. When they're done applying, or done reviewing it at the building department and the fire department, they release it.
Or if you have a deadline, you stay on the contractor and make sure the permit's issued and the work is completed.
Aren't they allowed a certain amount of time once the permit is issued to complete it?
Sure. He was
I
not cited.
believe that at the meeting.
Yeah, he was not cited for...
Understand that the work will not be done at that time.
The order said that he was to obtain a permit by May 9th.
Right, that's it.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm all for a compromise here. From zero, I put out a high number. I'm willing to go with a compromise, but I do believe that something more than zero has to be proposed here.
500 is more than zero.
Can you
Put it in the form of a motion.
Based on
I make a motion to amend Mr. Pizzuccillo's motion.
You don't have to
Well,
amend it,
yeah,
you
you could-
rescinded it, so you can make your own.
I withdraw mine if I even made one. I'm not sure I
It
did.
expired.
Yeah, that's right, yours expired, yours got rescinded.
I make a motion that we rework the arithmetic so that it comes out to a fine of essentially $500.
Plus court costs.
And you would need to add costs,
Plus
find them in
whatever costs.
compliance, and
Plus costs.
there's costs. There's fees for recording, to do a release of lien, for attorney time to prepare a release of lien. So usually you just put in there "and costs."
All right, plus attendant cost as just outlined by the Assistant City Clerk.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Opposed?
I oppose.
I'm opposed.
Penalties as of...
Sherry, maybe you
She's
should,
fine opposed.
Well, they found them in compliance.
Sherry, you
That
should call the roll on this. Sherry? Okay, sorry. Delete all that stuff you just typed.
Can you skip the next one? We'll come back to this one later.
Mr. McGann?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Pizzuccillo?
Yes.
Mrs. Hillman?
No.
Mr. Bryant?
No.
Mr. Price?
No.
Mr. Noonan?
No.
Motion fails 4-3.
I was probably the...
Shame on you.
I'd like to, and please, Kara, if I'm not wording this right, I'd like to make a motion for the 43 days that it took from May 10th to June 22nd at $50, which would come out to $21.50 plus cost.
So you're finding him in compliance as of June 22nd?
Correct.
The clerk will calculate the amount due based on $50 a day, finding in compliance on June 22nd, plus
Plus the
costs.
cost, correct. Thank you.
I don't want to do that, but I have to second that motion.
All in favor? Or am I allowed to say that?
You can say it, but I think we'll have the roll called again.
Mr. McGann?
No.
Mr. McDonald?
No.
Mr. Pizzuccillo?
No.
Mrs. Hillman?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
No.
Motion fails 4-3.
Yeah. It's always you. All right, clock's ticking. What are we gonna do?
So
So I think there's a lot of things to consider here. I think that we are, for lack of a better term, giving a pretty good deal here. But beyond that, I will follow up a little bit on what Mr. McGann said, in that Mr. Rennick is well-known in the community. He is a favored person in the community and does a lot of work in the community. Having said that, and that does allow a certain amount of, I guess, I don't know what the word is, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But having said that, he also owns a ton of properties, pulls a lot of permits, has a lot of work done on his behalf, and is aware of the process. This is not somebody who just got caught off guard. He did get caught off guard in that he thought...
We were in a state of emergency.
No, so he did get caught off guard in that he thought he was covered by the governor's proclamation, but he was brought, or was made aware that he was not, pretty early on in the process. Actually, way early on in the process. Had you done, or had a after-the-fact permit been done for the work that had already been completed, again, we wouldn't be here. I mean, there's a lot of ways and a lot of times where this process could have stopped and been amended, cost less. I understand your feelings that we should have caught the fact that you did what your paperwork. But again, as Melody indicated, and it's true, we do have a very heavy caseload. We can't revisit every case that we've had in the past, as well as move forward with new cases. We rely upon the paperwork, which says do this, do that, do that, do this. And if you don't, we end up here.
Well, the hurricane last year occurred in November. It wasn't a September hurricane. It was November. Okay. And it takes a while to get together $50,000 to rebuild the dock. We put together $5,000 or $10,000 to clean up and repair the dock. But then when we had to redo the dock, it takes time to get together that kind of money. You don't just go in the piggy bank and say, here's the money to build a new dock.
But I'm not sure code enforcement told you had to rip out the dock. You could have applied for
that was my understanding.
After the fact.
That was my understanding. They were criticizing everything we did, so I thought we had to do a new dock.
Code enforcement doesn't do building inspections, first of all. So I would not have had the wherewithal to go out to the structure and say, hey, it's good or not good. Right. I don't even try. I just say it's there or not there. That's what I do.
I just think that it was an improvement. I know he had to do some work, but to me, it was an improvement, perhaps, and I'm not sure, beyond what was called for. Now, saying that, we're somewhere between 500 and 2,500. Come on, board, let's compromise somewhere in between. Get this over with. Protect the town, protect this fellow from his fine record in the town, and let's move on somewhere.
Yeah, but I don't like negotiating these fees. I like them based on something. So
okay, come up with some dates.
That frustrates me is we're just pulling out numbers here.
Well,
I guess we've done that in the past.
Then we need to extend this and go find out exactly when the permit was issued and go from May 10th to when the permit was actually issued. Because right now we're going off permit application.
Or we don't charge anything. We rescind the whole.
Yeah,
we would take all the fees away. So
Tom agrees. He's getting the deal at the 22 June.
Well, I just can't see it getting anything.
It's not going to get any better than that.
All the evidence is known. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you did sign a contract to have the repairs done.
What's that?
Back in March.
I didn't hear you.
That does show some good faith in trying to get things resolved. Whether or not he called you, that's definitely Mr. Rennick's mistake. But is that a $2,500 mistake? I don't know. I mean, he showed good intentions. He did sign a contract. And you can't really punish him for the market being full of docks needing to be repaired at that time.
No.
That's why we
gave such a long
extension. You know,
and he would have got another one had I
maybe he should have called back and asked for more. But
absolutely.
Maybe he didn't know his contractor hadn't applied for the permit yet either. I don't know.
How did he hire a licensed contractor?
I don't know either. You know?
No, I didn't know. I thought once I hired a contractor that was in compliance, he was going to take care of it.
It probably would have had you called the code enforcement officer.
It says in his contract that you pay for the permit fees and the engineering.
Well, I paid him for everything, $50,000.
Yeah. And you knew when you paid for them.
Well,
We didn't
I paid
know.
him up front. I paid him $15,000 when I signed the contract, $17,000 when I signed the contract, then the rest of it afterwards.
I'm
I mean, we
still,
only know what we know, and we don't know what we don't know, but
Well, I have a copy of the checks right here.
if I am, I don't disagree with you or discount anything you've said.
We believe you.
It's,
I want to see them.
I just know that if I
Bring them
got
down.
cited for doing something, work without a permit, if I hiring unlicensed persons, if I were to hire somebody again a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later, I'd make sure ducks were in a row before I got caught a second time doing what I got caught the first time doing.
I guess Pat said that.
That's just,
I still feel that $50 a day penalty for the 43 days is a reasonable amount of money. From the time we gave him May 10th, and the permit was applied for on June 20th or 22nd, I believe.
Who actually applied for
That
the
is
permit?
half of what
The
the
contractor's
penalty
name
is.
was on
The builder did. I'm being penalized $100 a day by not having tenants that I couldn't rent to because the inspector said we couldn't, use that dock. So I've been penalized $100 a day since January or whenever. I guess, November, December.
Excuse me.
It's way back, almost a year.
Do you carry loss of business insurance?
No, not for docks.
could have.
You can't get them for docks, I don't think.
Okay.
You can carry liability for docks, we have, but not
Okay.
loss of income.
Well, I'll make a motion that we revisit this at next month's meeting after we have a chance to find out when the actual permit was issued, and we'll make a decision at that time.
So your motion is to continue the hearing? Okay.
I'm not going to get anywhere today, so if we have some concrete dates, then maybe we can decide something.
When was this hurricane? I don't remember one in November.
Hurricane Irma.
Last
I mean,
year?
it wasn't, most people didn't have a hurricane experience, but we did.
Wasn't there one in September too? I thought I went.
Yeah,
up
there
to
was one in
Tennessee.
September.
Let me see.
Yeah, there was one then too. but Irma was,
The one who hit over on the.
Irma was around from August 30th through September 13th.
went all the way up
Is
to
that when it was?
Irma. Yeah, that's the one I drove through last year.
Correct. I
Okay.
did too.
I would like to speak on the motion. I think we can hash this thing out. I think we can come up with a compromise tonight and end this thing,
tonight.
and we could move on this afternoon.
Sorry, get dark.
With a little,
Feels like-
there's some give and take in this thing, and we're in public, I understand, and we can do it, but we have to all be open
Yeah, but-
and look for a compromise somewhere.
Yeah, but I think that thinking about this over till the next meeting might give us some, us each considering our own stands on this might help too. I mean, it's kind of a complex situation, so I don't
Well, we're
want to jump
making
to.
it a complex situation.
I don't believe it's
Yeah.
complex. I see the signatures,
Well-
I see the dates, I'm not confused. If
Yeah, but
we were...
we're not all in agreement though. That's
I
the
understand
problem.
that, but if we were not generous people, we would have made a motion for $41.50. We're not doing that. We're looking to help
well,
the
we can't
gentleman.
do that because he's already shown proof that he had a permit before that.
Okay, well, I understand that.
But we don't know when. So we can't really set a compliance date.
Fine.
Yeah, but I think the overriding factor here is that he signed a contract on March 28th, wrote a check or checks for $17,000 with the assumption that the person doing the work was going to get the permit.
Correct.
The question is, who applied for the permit on June 22nd?
The builder.
The builder did, so he didn't do anything till then. My concern is that we have a gentleman here who's already spent a great deal of money, thought in good faith that he was going to have these things, because the first question I ask a contractor is, who's going to pull the permits? Make sure you pull the permits. Don't play
Right.
games with the permits. This, as far as I'm concerned, falls on the contractor.
I agree.
he got caught doing work without a permit to begin with.
But that was the other issue.
none
That's
of it
already
falls on
resolved,
the
isn't it?
contractor.
And actually, the contract is
That
not...
was resolved.
Reading the contract does not say who is going to pull permits. It only says that any permits pulled by the contractor will be paid for by the customer.
Right.
It doesn't say who is responsible for pulling permits.
But it was the contractor who did pull
Right,
it.
it says that on the.
I think it's a fair assumption that that was the agreement. With that in mind, I make a motion that the fines be
Well,
dropped.
there's a motion on the floor.
All right.
It wasn't seconded, so it would die for lack.
Second.
Oh,
No,
I'll-
wait.
I'll rescind mine. We can come back. We have a second then.
I make a motion that the fines be dropped, that this man was in good faith on March 28th, thought these things were going to be taken care of, and they were not.
What's your number?
0.
Plus,
Well,
well,
plus
you would need to
recording.
have
Plus cost. Plus cost.
And the $50 he's already paid.
Yes.
I second that.
Could you please?
Yeah, don't even, yeah.
Mr. McGann,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Pizzuchello,
Yes.
Mrs. Hillman,
No.
Mr. Bryant,
No.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Mr. Noonan.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-2.
Thank you.
Run while you can.
Please don't let this happen again.
Yeah.
That was it. Well, at least. Do you need something from us, ma'am, or are you just
Here, were you
enjoying the
gonna
show?
clarify that one case?
Okay.
That-
Does anybody have any other
Yes,
business?
I might. Miss
Hold
Chair,
on
if-
one
Wait
second.
one
Sorry.
minute, please. The first,
Which of the Vero Prime citation cases did you request him to have a continuing penalty and
The
do
first one.
The first one? It really should have been on the third one, because that was your third citation.
that's what we just want to clarify.
I know the numbers are askew.
Okay.
Okay.
The way it was assigned by the computer when you hit it, sometimes it's askew.
Okay, we just wanted to be sure that that was, okay, thank you.
Is that it?
I would just like to remind everyone, a couple of months ago, when we had the builder here, and there was an $83,000 fine, again, this board, I don't feel we should be giving anything away. I understand this gentleman's stand in the community, I really do. But I still feel that he should have been fined something. And
He was fined $50.
So, again, I'd like to just say that I don't think our code enforcement officers need to be going out into the community and us denying what should be paid.
But our goal is not to fine people. The goal is to get everybody in compliance to make sure they stay in compliance. So we got a dock that was built, and it was built correctly. That has some value to this.
I understand that,
And
but...
Linda, the case you're referring to with the builder,
Right.
he was hit with a $20,000 fine.
Correct.
Plus cost.
And this gentleman was not told he had to take the dock down. He was told that he had to apply for a permit, so it could have been an after the fact. He did not have to rip the dock out. It is my understanding.
Yeah, but at the original board meeting, I can remember him saying, I can't find anybody to do this, and until I can find somebody, I can't apply for the permit, which is why we gave him such a generous time frame to do that.
And it was a generous time frame, and that's why I feel from May 10th to June 22nd would have been a just fine, and that at least we would have paid some of the city's expenses on this.
That's not our job.
Well,
That's why we have cost of prosecution. If they have costs, they need to include that, and we charge extra.
I disagree.
I don't think-
We're the code enforcement board, and we are supposed
We are not
to...
anyone's employer.
Yeah, but we're also people, and we're here to decide. We're not saying that everything that's brought up to us is going to be zeroed out. It's just these weird situations that we might make the changes, and it's not against the code enforcement officers. It's not saying they're not doing their job. I don't think when we zero something out, we should say they're not doing their job. That's not the statement we're trying to make.
Well, I know since I've been on this board, which has just been about over a year, there has been only 2 fines that we have implied onto the community. And we have given a lot of, I'm talking about fines.
Saying we've only charged 2 fines?
Charged events such as this, code violations.
Large events.
Right. We seem to give more back to the people because they come in compliance, but
That's the point.
after a year, we should at least bring something in. This gentleman did that in September, and here we are back in November again, and we're zeroing a fine out. That's just my opinion.
Well, I want to just say this. I don't believe that when you call somebody in here, we want them to just comply. Yeah, we want them to comply, but we want you to comply in an orderly manner and in a timely manner. Sometimes fines are necessary, and I'm not opposed. I think sometimes you shouldn't let people just walk out the door with 0 just because they made good on what they were supposed to do originally.
Yeah, but I also can argue that the threat of a fine is also a deterrent as well. So to know that he can be fined in the future for
And also,
for
prior to
misbehavior.
it being scheduled for you, we've done everything. Sometimes it's a courtesy letter, followed up by a warning, followed up by a fine. We have exhausted all our measures to get you to come to the table, to come into compliance. It's not our choice to bring it to the code board. We're like you, we're trying to get compliance.
Correct.
So at the point that you hear it, we're stymied. How many times do we go to a hearing and we say, complied after notice of hearing?
Yeah, well, that, again, we want people to comply, but before they get here, and if we have to fine them, fine. My idea is not to just say, okay, you're in compliance, goodbye, have a nice day. There has to be some kind of message sent to the community that if you break these laws or ordinances, there can be a penalty, okay? And just saying, okay, he's complied, fine, go away. I don't buy that.
But in almost every situation where the person has come into compliance, there has been some type of fine and cost associated.
Yeah.
In virtually every case that we've had.
Not really.
Well, in this particular case, though, when the man wrote checks for $17,000 and,
No, but I'm not arguing the specific case. I'm arguing philosophy. To get people to comply is, I'm saying they should comply before they're in here so that we don't have to get to that, okay? I don't believe that is just our philosophy, is to get people to comply from up here, okay? They should have complied originally and before they got here, okay?
No argument.
And we have to use a fine as a threat. It's as simple as that. Thank you.
And I really believe this board has been very generous with all the cases that have come up in front of us. We really have. I'm just at the feeling where we have to stop giving everything away. We have to be responsible enough to know that what our code enforcement officers have done previous to it coming to us is more or as much as they could have done. And I just feel that giving it away and just slapping them on the hand and saying, come on, be good next time, is not what we're here for.
And what you will find, I found in other municipalities where I've worked for an extended amount of time, is those companies that are brought in occasionally for problems, it's a calculated risk. They say to themselves, all right, I pulled 21 permits every 6 months. my chances of getting caught so far are whatever, 1 out of 20, and when I do, I don't get fined. So why? If I get caught once and I get fined, I got away with it 19 times. You know, it's that kind of a mentality that we trying to, I understand too. I mean, I know we want compliance, I want it too. And it's the carrot and stick. I mean, you can't always find them and you can't always let them go. But people do have to know that if they get caught, there are ramifications. And the ramifications are not, you got a 60-day extension and a free pass.
And we were generous with the time that we gave him.
Generous is the wrong word. We were empathetic and understanding and fair-minded.
To clarify,
We're not here to make money.
And I resent being called irresponsible or...
the intent of our code enforcement code is the following. This is in the code. It is the intent of this article to promote, protect, and improve the health, safety, and general welfare of the citizens of the City of Vero Beach by the creation of a code enforcement system and procedures that will provide an equitable, expeditious, efficient, and effective method for enforcement of, and to encourage compliance with the code, ordinances, rules, and regulations of the City of Vero Beach and the state, county, and uniform laws, statutes, codes, ordinances, rules, and regulations that may be enforced by the city pursuant to this article. That's the intent of the code enforcement.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kara.
I understand both sides. I understand where you're sitting and what your thought process is, and I understand our thought process. From our perspective, sometimes it is disheartening. But by and large, I mean, it's what we do. And what you guys decide is what you decide. We get paid by the hour. We get nothing extra if they get paid, or they pay, or don't pay. So
Sherry, do we have any numbers that show how well we've collected or how well we've done as far as over the years? Are we doing worse or better than previous years as far as fines go? And
Well,
is there any
it's
record of
not
that?
calculated that way. I mean, I can get that information. I would have to pull the cases and find out what you've collected, but it all goes into the general fund, so... I mean, I can get that information, and you can tell me how far back you want to
Do you feel
go.
better if we got that information? Does it know where we are stand with previous years? I mean, how we're doing? Are you thinking we're more lenient than we should be?
I'm thinking we are more lenient than what we should be, yes.
But comparing this last year, this year, or the last 12 months with previous years, would that help you?
Maybe with the previous 2 years, and let's see where we set here, if Sherry can do that.
Is that a big job to do that? Is that?
I can do it.
Maybe you can do that instead of our... That can be our annual report.
It doesn't matter if it's something you would like me to get, then yes, I'll get that information.
And I would suggest that we could incorporate that as part of her work for the annual report.
Yeah, if she's going to dig it up, we can report it to the city council then.
Well, not every year, but I mean, she can, no, not every year. But I'm saying, take your work for putting together the annual report, you can include this information for this.
Yeah, then it doesn't come
As you're
out of our
gathering the
budget.
information for your annual report, just add this piece of information on.
Thank you.
In form of a profit loss spreadsheet, please.
So to clarify, you want me to do this
This
year
year.
and 2 years back further, so 3 years total?
Yes, if you can, please.
A lump sum. You don't have to break it down per month or anything like that.
I'll break it down.
No, just do yearly.
Well, don't
you.
forget,
Those numbers are going to be a little skewed because every time there's a hurricane,
don't forget,
licensed
It's
roofing
meaningless.
contractors go up, the lawn mowing goes up.
We'll be able to build a bridge with the false alarm money that's rolling in.
Don't forget, we had over 1,700 false alarms last year. There's an inordinate amount of time and manpower spent on false alarms.
They have to dispatch a
That's a
police
good thing.
officer
Yeah,
to
but
the
do we-
resident.
I think we need a different
Around the
procedure for that.
$50.
Only that we voted on though, right? We only want the numbers that came in front of the board. We don't want the numbers.
Right, I'm only going to calculate what came in front of the board.
Yes, thank you.
I want to remind Sherry that this year we did not meet in July or August, so it's a 10-month year as opposed to an 11-month year the year before.
Okay, I will break it down month
That's right.
per month.
No,
for
you
each
don't
year.
have to do that.
Look at the
Just so you
duration
know.
of each
That's
meeting.
fine.
Sorry for the extra.
I'm not even in
work.
favor of it. I don't care what it is, to be honest with you. But
When they're having a false alarm and I'm having a heart attack, I better win.
That's right.
Probably different. Yes, ma'am. Why not? Normally, we do not, but it's been a weird day, so.
It's still America.
Anybody want to adjourn?
No.
Not yet.
We're having too much
We're
fun.
having public comment.
Susan Carr, 1826 21st Avenue, Vero Beach. I don't think it's a matter of making money, but I think it's a matter of consequences. So maybe it's not the amount of money that was brought in as much as how many times did you decide to find someone, and not just maybe one of those like you do your 2-year-old. But it seems to me, I mean, we built a shed last year. I went around, it took me one day to get all the city and the county. And I walked away with the permit in my hand. So it's not a big deal. And I'm not a builder, I'm just, but there are rules. And what's the sense of having rules if you don't hold people's feet to the fire? There has to be a consequence.
To address your point, and it's well made, but what happens very often is that someone will come in and go, well, I didn't know, or I didn't get this, or I thought I had complied, and then the gray areas start popping up. It's not as cut and dried as it might appear.
Did you try that with a traffic cop lately?
Have I dealt with one?
Yes. What do they tell you?
In terms of what?
I know what they say.
A policeman stops you, wants to give you a ticket.
Ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Exactly.
That's what they tell you.
Yeah, but they can still decide not to fine you.
That's
if you get a
true.
ticket.
That's true.
Again, well, and you do give warnings, right? You give them that grace period.
There's always a warning.
Yeah.
Maybe 1 or 2.
There was 2 in his case.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, we do find them.
Well, yes.
Most of the times, they don't even show up here.
Well, I saw the
And
last
technically, that gentleman that
council
was
meeting,
here
there was
had
a big
already
one.
conceded his guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And paid
This
fine.
was not his evidentiary, or his, this was his compliance hearing. It was a request for order of payment. So we really didn't have to listen to him at all.
Yeah.
But we chose to.
Which is
Because we're
fine.
your neighbors.
Whose neighbors?
We all are.
Well, yeah, we're all from Vero, yes.
Yes.
Which is, I mean, that's a good thing. And having the empathy part of it, looking at circumstances, is also a good thing. But the more people get away with, the more they'll try to get away with. And that's when, they push the envelope.
And I don't think we would have showed mercy for someone who was trying to get away with something. But I think he had made every effort to actually comply. He was just, he overlooked the fact that he should have made a phone call, basically.
Several. And
I should have done myself, so.
When we had a contractor for our shed, right? 12 by 14 foot shed. We questioned everything. We looked at the timeline, and it seems if he's in the business, he's got to be used to working with contracts and things. But anyway, your decision was your decision, and that's fine. But I'm just saying that maybe it's not a matter of how much money you make, but that there are consequences, and that people know there are consequences, and that they are enforced. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aren't we looking for two alternates?
Yeah. Don't you want to leave your name here with Sherry?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do need 2 alternate members.
We need help.
Here's your book of regulations.
She's sitting right over there.
Not that tall.
It's called the human resource.
It's called our attorney's office. They know everything.
Should we adjourn? Anybody?
We can.
Okay, we'll adjourn. Have a good Thanksgiving.
Have